welcome back to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. Happy Tuesday. I hope you are having a phenomenal week. I am so glad that you are here. And I know I say that every week, but I really mean it. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to listen to me and allow me to pour into you and be part of your journey. And if this is your very first time here, then welcome, sis, to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. I would absolutely encourage you to go listen to the first 5 or 6 episodes from season 1 because I talk a lot about the foundational flow pillars there, and I tell you a little bit about how and why I got into this space. And what you should really know first and foremost, though, is that this is the safe space where we talk openly and honestly about the struggles and challenges that come up for us as moms, wives, entrepreneurs, corporate employees, those who are doing a combination of all of those, plus a dash of side hustle, the ones who are the go-tos in our circle of friends and families, and the Miss Do-It-Alls. So this is who this podcast is for. So know that you are in a safe space, you are in good company, and there are other women who are part of this community who are handling the same sort of things that you're handling, and you are in good hands like Allstate. All right, so last week I talked a lot. I was going to say a little, but I talked a lot about making room and asking you what you need to make room for. And I've gotten so much feedback around how the hoarder example resonated with so many different people, and I'm glad that it did. So if you haven't listened to that one, I also encourage you to go listen to that episode too, because it's pretty dope. As for today, though, I want to let you know before we jump in that this episode is being brought to you by the live masterclass happening on Tuesday, January 26th, Less Stress, More Rest, helping you to crack the code on time management and break up with rushing. If you have not registered for that, you can go directly to my website, www.nicoleroan.com, and click the link at the top or check the notes for this episode, and I'll have all the information there. So it's going to be a really great masterclass talking to you about how to align your values to your priorities, how to really effectively delegate both at home and at work. And then I'm also talking about my new capacity planning tool. So a personal capacity planning tool that every busy woman needs to have. As for today, though, I'm talking to you guys about doing it afraid. Yes. So whatever that may look like for you. And for me, it really started back in 2019. I'll even say before then. I think everything that I've done it afraid. And if that fear isn't there, then it's probably not big enough. And I know you've probably heard other people outside of me say that. But honestly, a lot of the things, I said everything, but a majority of the things that I've done, deciding to honestly go through with my pregnancy with my daughter when I was 18 years old, I was terrified about that. Deciding to get back into college after I'd been kicked out of college while I was pregnant 5 years later. Deciding to leave the abusive relationship that I'd been in for 4 years and move back in with my mama, find a whole new job, get out of my comfort zone. I was terrified. I did it with fear. And even most recently, leaving my cushy 6-figure leadership role in human resources. Want to talk about scared and doing it afraid? Listen, I didn't know how all of this stuff was going to pan out, but I knew that it's what I had to do. I knew that God wouldn't have given me the vision if he didn't give me the provision. And so I want to talk to you today about what that looks like and how you actually move through fear and do it afraid. I remember being at a speaking and coaching retreat in March of 2019. So yeah, I got out the hospital and all that stuff after being on life support and was like, okay, I'm still going to this speaking and coaching retreat because this is part of my destiny. Whole nother story. But at that retreat, it was hosted by Marshawn Evans Daniels and her wonderful husband, Jack Daniels. And I remember sitting there as we were going through, how to become a coach and position yourself in the marketplace and all of those different things. And she said something that stood out to me that I often say. And it was that you have to build and fly the plane at the same time. Now, as a planner, I'm like, I'm sorry, say what? You want me to do what? How am I going to build and fly the plane? Like, that's not even possible. But the more that I've journeyed into this entrepreneur space, I understand what that means. And so if you are in that space as well, even if it's that you are looking to move into a new role, if you're looking to expand your circle of sister friends, whatever it is that you're doing, I'm encouraging you to build and fly the plane at the same time. Because nothing's going to happen if you keep thinking about it. You keep talking about it. You keep wishing on a star. And yes, you're supposed to pray, but faith without works is dead, right? So what are you doing? So you got to build and fly the plane. Now, I did an episode on fear, about a month or two ago, and I talked about some of the reasons that people stay stuck in fear. But I was talking to one of my good sister friends, like I always do, about just this thing and being able to move through fear and doing it afraid. And something she said was that just because you get all bold and courageous and start taking steps towards what it is that you're doing and building and flying the plane at the same time, doesn't mean that fear or the feeling of being afraid goes away. And oftentimes I think that we think when you do it afraid, everything that you feel in terms of that fear is supposed to just disappear. And that's not the case. It's just really not the case. So I want to share with you 3 reasons why you need to do it afraid. And all of these reasons I've had to learn in my own due time. So I have applied them to my own situation. And these are some of the things that I talk to my clients about when I'm coaching them. And so I want to share with you why you need to be able to do it afraid. Number 1, you need to do it afraid because the world needs what you have, period. And I know that sounds all cliche and you hear people say, you have a divine calling and follow your purpose and all those different things. And it's true. And it took me forever, ever, to really get this. I heard so often in the business incubator programs that I was in that people are waiting on you. But when I tell you that since starting this podcast and doing my coaching and all of those things, people have been coming out the woodworks and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for what it is that you're saying because I didn't feel like anybody could relate to me. I'm so thankful that you're being so vulnerable because it gives me hope to be able to get through my situation. And I know each and every one of us has our own story, but you don't realize how somebody else's freedom is attached to you getting free. And I believe I heard one of my coaches, Brittany Sherrill, say that, and it knocked my socks off because you never know how what you've been through and how you've been able to overcome that thing is going to help somebody else be able to do the same. So many of us, if you even think about just from a music perspective, I know I love music because when I hear something that like hits me in the gut or in the soul, I'm like, ooh, it's usually because I can identify with what that person or what that music is talking about. And it helps me to get through. So you're somebody's music. You're somebody's bridge. And that's a really big deal and a huge responsibility. So being afraid is not a good enough excuse for you to not do what you know is on your heart, what you know is in your gut. Again, I'll keep saying this over and over and over. I really enjoyed what I was doing in the HR space. I was good at it. I was making more than enough money, like all of that. But I was afraid to step out and do what I'm doing now. But the longer that I waited, so many people whose freedom was attached to my freedom waited and suffered. So do you really want to keep people waiting when you are the solution to their problem? I don't care what it is. If it's you are starting a car detailing business, if you are starting a cleaning service, you are the solution to somebody's problem. So you have to push past the fear and do it afraid. The other reason, or I'll say number 2, is because tomorrow is not promised. And I've heard this a bunch of times too. Nobody in the history of everdom is on their deathbed saying, "Ooh, I wish I would have worked more." People on their deathbed regret not pursuing their dreams, regret having the what ifs. That's not how you want to leave this world. Tomorrow is not promised. So being able to really live out loud and live the life that you know you want, not doing that because you're afraid, like what kind of life is that? Think about the quality of your life. So many of us run around here on autopilot, right? Doing the same thing every single day. You get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you get your kids ready for school or whatever it is if you have children, or if you don't, you got fur babies and you take your dog for a walk. You come in, you eat breakfast, you go to work, or maybe you're working from home, so you hop onto your laptop or your computer to do some work. You work throughout the day, you eat lunch, you finish working. After work, you eat dinner, maybe you watch some TV, and then you go to bed. And you do it all over again. Where is the thriving in that? You're literally just surviving. And you were not put on this earth to just survive. God gave you hopes and dreams and ambition and purpose for a reason. I did a talk in May of 2019 at a Divorce and Me conference. And the title of my talk was, "When Did the Lights Go Out?" And in there, I talked a little bit about how I was so much on autopilot driving to and from work that I didn't even realize that the stoplight had gone out and almost crashed into the back of somebody's car. And that moment really made me think about, where else in my life am I being on autopilot? And so I challenge you today to think about that. What areas of your life are on autopilot? And is being on autopilot a safety blanket for you or a security blanket for you? Is it an excuse for you to not do what you know you're supposed to do? Because some of us are running around here woke and some of us are sleep woke. And then we have the ones who are just like, you know what, it is what it is. So if you are okay being on autopilot and you know you are on autopilot, then this podcast is not for you. And I highly doubt that that's you, because you wouldn't be listening. I believe that you are one of the ones who you know that something ain't right. You know you're on autopilot because you have the signs and the symptoms of it, right? Like every day is the same day. It's like the SpongeBob episode. Wonderful weather we're having. Great day we're having, right? Same thing day in, day out. You're listening to this not on accident. It's because you need to be told that you need to do it afraid. And you need to get off autopilot. So you have some choices to make. You can stay where you're at and keep living below where you know you want to live. And when I say below, I mean below fulfillment. And I'm going to do a whole episode on functioning versus fulfillment, but you're functioning. And that's it. Functioning on autopilot. What kind of life is that? Before I go too far on my soapbox, I'm going to jump into the third reason why you need to do it afraid. So that third reason is the worst you can do is fail. And yeah, that sounds scary, because who wants to knowingly and willingly fail, right? Nobody. But if you look back on all the things that you've been through, and if you know that you are not a failure, you're not going to fail this time by doing it afraid. Fear means two things. You can forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. So what are you going to choose? Especially when it comes to this, when it comes to your life, you get one lap around this race called life. And do you want to spend it being afraid to pursue your dreams? Being afraid to live the life that you desire, and even admitting that you want a different life? Real talk, some of y'all too afraid to even admit to yourselves that you deserve and want better or different. And that's a whole problem in and of itself. When I talked to my sister about taking the leap from the corporate world into entrepreneurship, and this is my little sister, she said, if all else fails, you can go back and get another job. And I was like, huh? But she was right. And she said it again. And she had to remind me that the worst thing that I could do is fail. But given my track record, I wasn't going to fail because failure ain't in me. And that's not to say that there have been things that I've tried that didn't work out, because yeah, of course, I'm human. There's been a lot of things that didn't work out, but they haven't stopped me. Them not working out didn't prevent me from getting back up. So if you are afraid of failing, and that's keeping you from doing what you know is on your heart and in your gut, I'm going to have to tell you to get over yourself. Because honestly, it ain't about you anyway. I think what I started with at number 1 is that the world needs what you have. And when you operate from that lens and you realize that you have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to do something bigger than just you move different. And so, yeah, I was afraid. Are there days that I'm still afraid? Absolutely. And I'm talking about failure too. What if this doesn't work out? What if I do got to go back and get a job? Okay, and then I can, right? It's as simple as that. But what I can't do is keep sitting around talking about it. That was something that I could no longer do. And you'll get to a point where you just can't. The pain of being where you are is going to be bigger than the fear that you have, especially of failure. And again, even if you do fail, there's so much that you can learn from that. One of the things that I used to say when I was in the corporate space was fail fast. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but the faster that you fail, the faster you can get back up. You learn from what didn't go well. You revamp, remix, tweak, whatever you want to call it. And then you do it again until it gets right, until it gets to where you want it to be. But in 2021, we ain't letting fear stop us. So I'm really going to need you to build and fly the damn plane at the same time. If you say that this is going to be your best year yet, if you say that you breaking generational curses, if you say you're going to have results and not resolutions, then you have to do that. And you have to do it afraid. And you also need to be in community with other people. And I cannot stress that enough. I know I talk about my sister friend community, but I have to tell you that being in that business group, Purpose to Platform, there are sisters that I have that pick me up on my darkest day. And it's nothing like having somebody who understands where you're coming from, who understands those different struggles. And the friends and family members around you may not. And that's okay too. So put yourself in position with other people who are also doing it afraid. Because when you need that pep talk and you need that reminder as to why you're doing what you're doing, that's where it's going to come from. So I encourage you to find like-minded, like-hearted people. I know you can absolutely join my community, the Flow and Flourish community on Facebook. You can also join a couple of others that I'm super fond of. There's this Real Motherhood Circle by my girl Whitney, where she is literally talking openly and honestly about what it's like to be a mom. And I had her on the podcast in December. And we talked about the mindset of asking for and accepting help. So if you haven't listened to that one, go check that one out too. You were not put on this earth to do this by yourself. And so again, get over yourself and understand that eventually you're going to need other people to bring these dreams to fruition. So while you're doing it afraid, find a community that can support you. And that's all I got for you. I just really hope that you listening to this is confirmation that whatever it is that you're working on, if it is moving to a new place, if it's releasing a relationship, if it's changing your eating habits, if it's updating what you believe, do it afraid. So many of us are doing it afraid. And again, when you put yourself around other women who are doing it afraid, you're going to feed off of everybody else's energy. I don't want fear to paralyze you anymore. And seriously though, like if you can make it in the middle of the worst pandemic in history, like I'm gonna need you to not be afraid. Okay, pumpkin? So last week we were making room. This week we're doing it afraid. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, I would imagine that you should probably do that at this point because there's so much more that I'm giving you in 2021 to really help you be able to flow and flourish. And again, I do have this live masterclass that is happening on Tuesday, January 26th. That's really helping you take back control of your time and to help you be able to show up in excellence in all of your different roles. So if you have not registered for that, make sure that you go and do that ASAP because I also have a special announcement after that masterclass that you don't want to miss. And if you are not registered, not only will you not get the replay, but you're not on my email list. And so I'm going to need you to get on there. Come find me. Come connect with me. I need you to do that because this is for you. I'm doing what I do for you. And until next week, as your capacity coach, I am again so thankful for the opportunity to really pour into you. And I look forward to continuing to be able to serve you and help you really create balance between your personal and professional life without ever having to sacrifice yourself and what matters most to you.